So I think that's just kind of been the time for me to like really find some patience, and I've never been a patient person my entire life, so this has definitely tested me a little bit.
You know what they say about waiting for something great? Well, Caitlin Clark just gave Fever fans everywhere the news they've been dying to hear. Her injury update just dropped, and trust me, this comeback is going to be massive.
Obviously, this game is peaking at 3.2 million viewers is crazy for the WNBA, even for the Fever. So this year's peaks are already freaking higher than last year's peaks when this team was starting to do a bit well.
Look, I'm not talking about some basic return where she casually walks back onto the court with a generic welcome back message on the scoreboard. Turns out the Chicago Sky can barely spell their own name, let alone play basketball properly.
Possessions for New York. Clark, step back three. Oh, she hit it and draws the foul. Welcome back.
But getting back to what really matters here, Caitlin's return is going to be way more significant than anyone realizes, because everything that went down during her absence completely shifted the landscape for her, the Fever, and the whole WNBA.
1 second left. Clark doesn't get the shot off. Cloud locks her up, and New York comes into Indianapolis and takes the checkered flag.
Here's where things get really interesting though. The whole mystery surrounding how she actually got hurt has people cooking up some pretty wild theories, and honestly I'm kinda hoping they're right, because if that's the case, we're about to witness a much more lethal version of Caitlin Clark.
I think this was a kind of gut punch for us. We're gonna come back tomorrow, practice, more focus, more energy. We know we want to be at the end of the season, but we're not just going to get there. You know, sometimes it sucks and it's a grind, and that's where we're at right now. But I do think short term and long term, it's going to make us better.
Looking at what she shared with reporters, how the Fever's whole energy has changed, and all the madness that unfolded in the league while she's been sidelined, everything is perfectly aligned for an absolutely legendary comeback. We're talking broken records and completely rewritten storyline.
Inbound to Mitchell, who nearly lost it, retreats, gets up a really tough shot, and Connecticut survives.
Let me walk you through all of it, but first, smash that like button if you think Caitlin's comeback is gonna shatter every viewership record in the books, and hit subscribe to stay locked in on all the Fever news. First though, let's rewind to a few weeks back.
Fever now on an 11-2 advantage. Miscommunication, it's stolen by McDonald, who races to the other end and finishes.
Right before Caitlin went down with that quad strain, she was doing her usual thing, creating highlight reels and shattering records left and right.
And if there's one thing that is a certainty for the Indiana Fever, it's that hold on to Aari McDonald at all costs.
That Fever versus Liberty matchup hit nearly 3.3 million viewers. This came right after their season opener against the Sky, which pulled in 2.7 million viewers. That was the most watched WNBA regular season game we've seen since the year 2000. So yeah, the Caitlin Clark phenomenon was firing on all cylinders. And here's the crazy part, the Fever weren't exactly dominating.
And the Indiana Fever has beaten the Chicago Sky by a combined 62 points in 2 games.
They were sitting at 2-2 at that point. Sure, that blowout victory over the Sky made it seem like they were about to run through the entire league, but if you really break it down, that win told us more about how terrible the Sky were than how ready the Fever were to take over everything. Their offensive flow looked choppy, and you could tell they were still trying to figure out their identity, and Caitlin, while she was still productive and creating those jaw-dropping moments, if anyone really watching could see something was off, the explosion wasn't quite there. That signature burst looked muted.
Happy learned how to putt. Uh-oh.
We need to circle back to this because it's crucial for understanding what comes next. So when word broke that she'd be missing at least 2 weeks and a minimum of 4 games, fans were obviously worried, but there was also this underlying confidence floating around. No big deal, we got this. The veteran additions will keep things steady.
The cheapest ticket for the June 7th showdown is $14, according to Vivid Seats. Oh, there's some even less expensive.
That confidence got tested immediately.
The cheapest ticket for that game next month is currently at $82, according to Vivid Seats. It gets much worse. Therefore, there's currently an 83% drop between the 2 games
This was Sophie Cunningham's reaction after they lost to the Mystics, which was their first game without Caitlin Clark. It's worth remembering what she said here, because looking back, she was picking up on something real. But if fans were hoping for a quick bounce back, they were about to be disappointed. After that Mystics loss, everything started falling apart even more.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, the most coddled basketball player in history. She is the 43rd best player in the WNBA. She is, and that is being the most generous I can be coming into this season.
But fam, don't you dare exclude Angel Reese out of that. That is favoritism. Don't show that, man. You need to call Angel Reese out the same way you are willing to call everybody else out.
Getting beat by the Sun, a team that opened the season 0-5, was a reality check that had fans and analysts questioning everything they thought they knew. And right when you thought it couldn't get any messier, the basketball god said, "Hold my beer." In that exact same game, the Fever lost both Sophie Cunningham and Sydney Colson to injuries. Both of Caitlin Clark's primary backups were suddenly unavailable. In the blink of an eye,
that happened during a game or anything, or is it just something that was lingering that popped up?
It happened in the Liberty game, yeah.
Were you able to pinpoint a time in the Liberty game that happened, or you were just...
No, definitely early in the game, but I couldn't tell you the exact play something occurred on. And
all of a sudden, their depth chart wasn't just questionable, it was completely demolished. But here's where this story gets interesting, because sometimes when multiple opportunities disappear, fate opens up something even better, and this particular door brought in some serious game-changing energy.
Happened in the Liberty game, yeah, I don't believe that. She looked 60% in the Liberty game. She looked no better against the Atlanta Dream. And there's no way it happened in the Liberty game. Unless, like, she looked so much better in the second half of the Liberty game as well. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
Erica McDonald, the hardship signing that came out of nowhere, stepped up and immediately transformed the entire atmosphere. She brought intensity, she brought speed, and most importantly, she got their offense moving again. She turned into that spark off the bench, earned the fans' love, and now plenty of people are arguing she shouldn't just be a temporary solution. She should be part of this organization's long-term plans.
Things just go as they were, and we have expanded season of 22 home games with modest inflation. I'm looking at $875 million.
The Fever started finding their groove. First, they got payback against the Mystics, completely flipping the script from that earlier embarrassment, and then the moment everyone was waiting for arrived, that highly anticipated rematch with the Chicago Sky in front of almost 20,000 people, and the Fever made a statement. They didn't just win the game, they absolutely demolished them.
She hasn't looked really right all year. Like, the Sky game was the Sky game. They destroyed the Sky. Sky were terrible. But outside the Sky game, she hasn't looked right at all. She didn't look right in preseason. She hasn't looked right at all this year.
Look, beating the Sky at this point is like breathing air, but this particular beatdown was different because the Fever pulled it off without Caitlin Clark, without Sophie Cunningham, and without their head coach Stephanie White. And even though it wasn't their most polished performance, it was still a complete destruction, and that should terrify every other team in the WNBA because the Fever just demonstrated something really dangerous. They've figured out how to get wins without Caitlin.
I think at times the hardest part is like just not being able to be involved in practice. Like, I love practice. Not a ton of people always enjoy like coming to practice every single day, but that's something I like really enjoy. Like, I really enjoy coming out here and like competing every single day with my teammates. Like, that's probably honestly what I miss most. Obviously I miss the games. That goes for anybody that's ever hurt, but like, I love practice. I love getting better.
Kelsey Mitchell has broken out of her early season struggles and is starting to look like the player we remember. Aaliyah Boston keeps being a force of nature down low. Lexi Hull is absolutely deadly from beyond the arc and building a legitimate case for most improved player, maybe even pushing into all-star conversation. There's a lot of good happening here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a unique perspective, you know, when you're out there playing and actually in the heat of the moment, you don't always realize everything, you don't always see everything, you see things from a different perspective that maybe the coaching staff didn't see. So it's certainly different. So I'm trying to, you know, kind of be that connector between the coaches and then my teammates at the same time, whether, you know, that's in the locker room at halftime, whether that's during timeouts of, you know, things I see from the bench that maybe might be a little bit different of a perspective than maybe our point guard is seeing or, you know, anybody on the floor is seeing.
For these reasons alone, the Fever are going to be a better team when Caitlin comes back, better than they ever would have been if she had never missed any time. This by itself should have Fever fans pumped up, but if you're a Caitlin Clark supporter, there's something else. This injury situation didn't just give the team room to develop, it made her value impossible to question. Her impact on this league has never been more obvious. Let's start right here.
After that, it's, day by day and see how I feel and just kind of turn to the medical staff and what they think. But I feel like I've made a lot of progress and I feel good and, not going to rush coming back. It's just not worth it.
But it goes deeper than that. First, the game against the Sky officially killed the narrative that people show up to see anyone else. Right before tip-off, tickets were selling for as low as $3. It literally cost more money to buy a small popcorn and watch the Sky lose than to get through the doors. And here's the kicker, their next matchup in just a few weeks and ticket demand is already climbing back up. And look, I'll be nice to Angel Reese by not going too deep into the fact that she only scored 4 more points than my coffee machine. That's your next topic to think about. But let's keep it real. That performance officially ended any rivalry talk under the brightest lights possible. In front of the biggest crowd of the season, the league watched one of its most hyped young players deliver one of the most disappointing showings we've seen all year. And nobody's falling for the media narratives anymore. All of this has made one thing impossible to deny. Angel Reese isn't the one driving interest. This is Caitlin Clark's league, and when Caitlin comes back and the ratings explode again, the argument is over. Then maybe, just maybe, the WNBA will finally understand that it's time to showcase and protect its biggest attraction. Speaking of her comeback and those record-smashing numbers, let's discuss Caitlin's recent statements and what some people are calling a quiet controversy. Now, maybe I'm being a little paranoid here, but there's a conspiracy theory floating around, and I'll be honest, I'm buying into it. Check out this next clip and tell me in the comments if you think I'm onto something real, or completely losing it. Because when Caitlin got asked directly about what triggered her injury, here's her response. Caitlin claims she doesn't remember exactly when the injury occurred, but not everyone's convinced by that answer. There's growing speculation that this wasn't some sudden random injury, but something she's been quietly battling for weeks. Something that kept getting worse, something she tried to fight through until her body finally said no more. First off, that theory actually reflects something really admirable about Caitlin, and I'll explain that in a moment, but let's be realistic. I wouldn't be shocked if there's some legal protection happening behind closed doors, because if this wasn't a random in-game injury, if it was something the organization was aware of, and she kept playing through it, that creates a completely different situation. Think about this logically. Caitlin Clark is literally worth over $1 billion to the league this season. If the Fever knew she was playing through an injury and allowed her to keep going, game after game after game, only for her to eventually break down, that's not just bad optics, that's a potential public relations disaster. I'm not an attorney, but when you factor in Caitlin's competitive drive, the fact that she hasn't looked completely right all season, and just how much money is riding on her success, it all adds up. It's not some crazy conspiracy theory, it's just smart damage control. And if that's really what's going on here, you can see why they'd want to keep the details murky. Now here's the exciting part, and honestly this is why I kind of hope the theory is accurate, because if Caitlin has been quietly battling through an injury during these first few games, and now she's finally taking the time to properly heal, we might be about to witness the absolute best version of her we've ever seen. Just think about it. She wasn't at full strength, and she was still putting up impressive statistics. So imagine what's gonna happen when she's completely healthy. And here's another piece of evidence that backs up the theory. Another reason to believe she may have been playing through pain this entire time. And right there, you can see something that can't be coached. Caitlin's got that competitive fire burning inside her. She lives for the preparation, the repetitions, the film study, the extra training, constant growth, always learning, always elevating her teammates. And yeah, sitting on the sidelines is absolutely eating her alive. But even now, while she's unable to play, she's still finding ways to make an impact, to develop, to lead, to drive this team forward. And during her press conference, she gave us a peek, a window into how she's still affecting the game, even from the bench. She's always been someone who studies the game obsessively. That's not new information, but honestly, this time away from playing might be giving her something she's never experienced before, a coaching perspective, and it's really showing. It's transforming her into an even more effective leader. She's not just sitting there doing nothing. That's not who she is. She's completely dialed in, analyzing plays like a coach would, staying vocal with her teammates, keeping everyone engaged, and absorbing knowledge in real time. And finally, the question that was on everyone's mind, the one weighing on every Fever fan, every news story, every broadcast. When exactly is Caitlin Clark making her return? Well, here's the fantastic news. If you're a Caitlin Clark or Fever supporter, this is exactly the kind of update you want to receive. She's feeling really strong, and more importantly, she's not trying to rush back too quickly. Because this isn't just about one single game, it's about the entire season, and possibly even bigger than that. If anything, the reason she ended up in this position to start with might be because she played through the discomfort. That's just her nature, a competitor through and through. Now, depending on when you're watching this, she might have already returned against the Dream. Personally, I don't think that was very likely, the Fever getting wins without her. The season is still in its early stages, and if she sits out one more game, she gets a complete extra week of recovery time. But hey, I'm not her medical team. Let me know in the comments whether I called it right or wrong. But regardless of when you're seeing this, one thing is absolutely certain. When Caitlin Clark makes her return, it's going to be the defining moment of the season. She was already shattering viewership records before she had to step away, and honestly, I don't think we've witnessed anything close to her full impact yet, because this short absence created something powerful: perspective. The gap between the league with Caitlin and without her is now undeniably clear. The Fever were forced to discover their identity and figure out how to win without her, and that type of challenge, especially early in the season, is exactly when you want to face it. Now, Caitlin at full health with a more unified, confident team surrounding her is set up to accomplish what everyone hoped for from day one: transform this team into a real championship threat. It's incredible what a little time away and some patience can build toward. If you made it this far, drop a trophy emoji in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.